Yeah, look, my background is as a professional player, at a modest level. You know, I actually grew up and was raised in New Zealand and moved from there to play through Asia, and then up into Denmark, where I spent a couple of years in Denmark at one of the Superliga teams there. Got a bit homesick and ended up coming back to Australia, which is a bit closer to home, and the culture's a bit more like that, and ended up sort of playing my career mostly in Australia, and then moving into coaching as I was playing. And I had a bunch of mates that wanted to coach, and I said, "Yeah, I'll help you out." And that sort of ignited my passion in coaching. Carried on with coaching and coached a range of teams, you know, international under 20s, female teams, senior men's teams, kids teams. Spent a year working in a club as a coaching director, I suppose you could call it, where I was doing probably 11, 12 sessions a week. And that was a really great learning period for me. You know, coaching everything from under eights all the way up to the first team, and just learning the different contexts and what different people and kids and adults wanted from the game. So just doing that coaching, yeah, like I said, 11 sessions a week, that really cemented my interest and my approach, I suppose. From there, got into a federation in New Zealand and working as a technical director for a region. Obviously, then working in coach education, still coaching at the time, and then working from there into Australia, into a regional technical director's position there, and then into the national body and head of coach education. So yeah, I mean, I've had dabbles in side things. I've done education and finance and all sorts of things. Worked for a year in a bank. Absolutely hated it. Got out of it. Back into football. But I would probably say my biggest influence is actually my career growing up as a young kid. I was a goalkeeper until I was 16 or 17 years of age. Made the New Zealand under 17 side as the third choice goalkeeper. But actually went on to have a career as an outfield player, as a professional. So it's probably, you know, a bit odd. I didn't get any coaching as a young kid as an outfield player, but I played every day. You know, the street football, straight home after school, drop your bags, back over to the school, meet all the local high school kids, mixed age games, just hour after hour. So I suppose my beliefs are influenced by that a little bit. Um, yeah, look, there's been probably over the last 7 or 8 years, there's been quite a big change. We had a couple of Dutch technical directors put in place, and they put in place what's called the national curriculum. Um, Look, at the time, it was a cultural shift from what probably was called then fight ball, where, you know, get the ball forward as quick as possible, fight for it up the top, towards a more proactive possession-based approach. And look, the curriculum was probably needed. The way it was implemented at the time, I think, got the biggest impact. But along the way, it probably put offside a lot of the current coaches and didn't bring people along on that journey enough as it should. So, you know, the curriculum has almost become a four-letter word in Australia. You know, it's this piece of paper's blamed for all the ills, or it's celebrated for all the successes. When in reality, look, it's an evolving document. Um, it's a bit of paper that outlines the philosophies and beliefs of the national body. But I have, you know, I've seen some improvement over the last 7 or 8 years. In that time, we've had the launch and the strength of the professional league. It's had some issues recently, but I think that fully professional league was a big impact on Australian football. And we've got to get more teams now. We've got 10 teams in the competition. We've got to expand that and get the interest going again. So there has been quite a bit of change over the last, I'd say, 8, 9 years. Um, some of it good, but just the way it was implemented needed a bit of tweaking, I would say. Yeah, look, it's a difficult career. Like I said, we've only got 10 professional clubs, so the professional roles and full-time roles are, far and few between. The most coaches need to get a number of roles to create a full-time job. So they might do something with it's not an amateur club, but a semi-amateur club. They might do something with a school. They might do something with an academy. And through all those things, they create a job from it. It does make it difficult though, because they're serving three different masters, so to speak, uh, and trying to work full time in coaching is quite difficult. And there's a lot of people wanting to do it. I'm constantly asked, how do I get into these professional roles? A lot of it's luck. A lot of it's who you know. As much as we don't want to say that's how it works. It's how the world works. And a lot of it's getting out there and being involved, putting your hand up to help out, free of charge, go along, just keeping your face in there. And I think those that are prepared to put in that hard work, prepared to learn, prepared to be humble, they'll get opportunities in the end. I would have to say working with people. A lot of coaches start out, they want to learn the technical, tactical, they want to learn all about the physical training, the science of that. But at the end of the day, you're working with people. So if you don't understand people, then you're lost. Uh, if you can't build relationships with people, if you can't shape environments where people have the opportunity to blossom, provide success. Basically, the role of the coach is there to help the player and the team to get where they want to go. So they're in a supporting role. And if you don't know how to get the best out of people, then I think you'll really struggle. Look, I think planning. Right at the beginning, you need to understand the context if you're working in. So regardless of where you're coaching, if you're coaching young kids, if you're coaching senior professionals in a professional league, um, understanding the context that you're working in, understanding yourself, and then basically setting the vision and the strategy. And ideally, that's done with the players. But it comes down to the planning, the implementation, then review, and obviously then carrying on from there in a spiral sort of motion to go, well, that worked, that didn't work, so I should learn from that. What do I do next time? So I think most coaches go into it, and if we're talking about soft skills, if we're talking about building relationships, you can plan and include these sorts of things in your thinking. Often we only plan about the session or what the game day, the tactical analysis, those sorts of things. But your plan needs to include everything. So, if you put that in place and you have this learning attitude, I suppose, it's not always going to go right. You're going to make mistakes. Accept that. Just like players make mistakes, coaches make mistakes. Accept it, learn from it, move on to the next thing. Yeah, I mean, whilst I go on about the people skills, you definitely need the technical, tactical knowledge. You need to implement that. But I think there's hundreds of coaches around the world that have that knowledge. What they lack is the other side. Understanding how players learn, like you said, are the young players, is it skill acquisition? Is it professional players and the tactical things? How do people actually learn? Interpersonal knowledge, I suppose, as I've touched on, could be emotional intelligence. Your leadership skills are absolutely crucial. Doesn't matter what level you're working at, how you lead and what you're like as a leader is really important. And then I suppose knowledge of yourself. Why do you coach? What are your beliefs? How have you come to reach those beliefs? As I said before, some of my beliefs are influenced by my own upbringing, and it's not right or wrong. Everybody has their own personal journey, but understanding why you think the way you do will really help you with your learning moving forward. Wow, that's a big one. I think I'll go back to what I said before. be open, be humble. Get out, make connections with people. It really does come down to who you know. You've got to go build those relationships with the key people in the industry of where you want to work, and be prepared to get out there and give your time for free to start with. I know coaches who have done that and they've ended up with jobs because they're the first ones that people think of when the role comes up. You're there, you're in the face, so to speak. I think you can apply for roles, but if they don't know you, you're going to really be struggling to get a foot in the door. Yeah, look, I think as I mentioned before, it comes down to leadership. Um, Having a clear, inspirational vision for whoever you're coaching, and how do you get fans, get the board, get your staff, get your players to connect to that vision and feel a part of it. Most professional coaches these days have a huge staff. They are basically CEOs of medium to large companies. If you look at the research, the qualities of a top professional coach, they match the qualities of a top CEO of a Fortune 500 company. So, these guys are professional CEOs of a huge company. And that leadership component, I think, is underrated. And I think that'll become a big focus in the near future. It's already going that way. But I think as we understand more about leadership and how we develop leadership skills within people, that's going to be the next thing over the 5 to 10 years, I believe. Yeah, currently at the moment we're fairly traditional, I'd say, along with most countries. You've got the UEFA Coaching Convention. The Asian Football Confederation is introducing a coaching convention where you've got your traditional courses, CBA, pro license courses. But my biggest thing is you need to really understand the culture and the context of the country that you're working in. I actually see the coaching convention as a hindrance to working with coaches in Australia. The majority, I think the conventions are great for where there's a large professional game, but we have mostly volunteer, semi-amateur coaches. So most of them are going to work during the day and they're coaching on top of what they're doing. So to ask them to come to a course, give up 2 weeks leave from their job for a year, that's 2 weeks leave that they're away from family. The cost of the courses is still quite high. I think those are all issues within Australia. So in our context, we are moving towards more club-based support. How do we take the learning to the coach in the workplace? Rather than asking the coach to leave their workplace, come on a course for 1 week and another week in a year's time or whatever it is, how do we put that learning into the workplace and support them while they're coaching? I think from the learning research, that'll have a much greater impact on coach behavior and coach learning than, taking them out. And often on courses, you get coaches going, this is great, but it won't work back in my environment. So what's the point? Let's do the learning in that environment and help them make sense of what they're doing and what they're seeing. So we're still going to have the courses. They're important. Coaches will always want to come along to courses, but our big push over the next few years is going to be about taking the learning to the workplace and helping the coach there. Yeah, look, definitely online is a very valuable learning tool. We can utilize that so the coach can, I suppose, get some knowledge, I'll call it knowledge, in their own time and when it suits them. So they can do it at any time of the day, any time of the night, and they can fit it into their current schedule. What we want to do then is when we're either working with the coach in the club or if they come on a course, we spend more time actually doing as you say. We don't have to sit there and deliver the knowledge or the theory or that sort of thing. The other benefit from doing it online is when we get together with the coach, they've had time to consider it, think about it, think how it fits with what they currently feel and do. And therefore, they'll have much deeper questions and the conversations and the discussions are much deeper. If you're presented with something for the first time there and then, it takes time to digest that information. So that allowing the coach to do it online in their own time and place helps when we get together with the coach face to face. So the online component's going to be a very, very important part of our structure going forward. The other thing we're really going to focus on is helping the coach develop the skills to do their own self-directed learning, their own informal learning, if you want to call it that. There is a huge amount of information out there. You can, services such as yourself and education services, YouTube, it's everywhere on the internet. So being not self-critical, but being critical consumers, which information do I need? How do I find it? How do I make the most of that learning, and how do I put it into practice? Because it's one thing to consume something through the internet. How do I then turn that into behaviours on the field, or working with players, or working with staff? That's the important part. So teaching them that, I suppose you call it action learning loop. Planning, getting some information, planning what I'm going to do with it, implementing, learning from it, and then going through and refining that and making it better and better. So how do we teach those sorts of skills to the coaches? That's a big part of our structure coming up.